Yeah.
Okay. Now, in preparation for today's inaugural lecture, I went through some of the papers of the CFT which were given to me by Mr. Pancholi, and I went through the inaugural address given by Justice V.M. Tarkunde that has been referred to by Mr. Hiremat. But what Mr. Tarkunde spoke about, among the other things, he spoke about the political instability at that point of time. That's April 1974. He spoke about the great economic hardship that people were facing and which I think people are still facing today. But equally importantly, he emphasized on the existence of a moral crisis characterized by a loss of idealism and corruption. So, one of the founding tenets of the CFD was based on the moral crisis that was facing the country. It was a moral crisis of a lack of idealism, आगे क्या होने वाला है, and it was a moral crisis regarding corruption. Now, at that point of time, the idea of constitutional morality had not yet taken root, although it was a matter that was discussed in the Constituent Assembly by Dr. Ambedkar. So, while Justice Tarkunde did not use the expression constitutional morality, I believe that his words were pointing towards that moral crisis of constitutional morality. And it is for this reason that I have chosen this as the topic of today's lecture on the Golden Jubilee of the CFD to highlight the constitutional morality that we are facing today and what we need to do about it. So I will begin by recalling what Dr. Ambedkar said in the Constituent Assembly in his closing speech on 25th of November 1949. There was a defense of the Constitution by others also, but in his concluding address, Dr. Ambedkar said, I feel, however good a constitution may be, it is sure to turn out bad because those who are called to work it happen to be a bad lot. However bad a constitution may be, it may turn out to be good if those who are called to work it happen to be a good lot. Now, try and imbibe the feelings behind the words. The Constituent Assembly had debated the Constitution for over 2 years. All kinds of views were expressed by all the members from different parts of the country. They had worked very hard, particularly in Dr. Ambedkar, in drafting the Constitution. And they felt, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad said more or less the same thing the next day on 26th of November 1950 in his closing address as the President of the Constituent Assembly. They both said in different words that what we have given you or what we have tried to give you is a good constitution. But even if the constitution is a good constitution, if the people who are going to operate the constitution or who are going to work on the constitution or who are going to work on the constitutional principles are a bad lot, that good constitution will be criticized as a bad constitution. You could not check this. But on the other hand, if you have a bad constitution, in England, they don't even have a constitution. But if you have a bad constitution, and the people who are operating that constitution or the people who are going by the spirit of even that bad constitution are able to make a good job of it for the people of the country, people will say it is a good constitution. So we have, in fact, it is my belief, we have a very good constitution. and whether that constitution continues to be operated in the spirit of the constitution, in the spirit of constitutional morality, we are on safe ground. But once we forget about constitutional morality, we are inviting trouble. The constitution cannot be, no constitution can be, and India's constitution is the largest constitution in the world. No constitution can be like a standard operating procedure that you have in rules and regulations. Where starting from Article 1 to whatever article it is, everything is laid down step by step, step by step. It's not possible. Then it doesn't become a constitution, it becomes a document like a textbook or something like a rule book that this is what you have to do. So there are certain gaps in the constitution. American scholars and jurists have called it silences of the constitution, where certain things are left unsaid. Why are they left unsaid? They are left unsaid because the people who are going to operate that constitution, or the people who are going to work under that constitution, the belief of the Constituent Assembly, whether it is in India or whether it is in the United States, is that the people are going to go by the spirit of the Constitution. They know why the Constitution was formulated. They know what are the requirements of the Constitution. They know what is good governance. We don't have to tell them everything, that you do it like this, you do it like that, don't do it like this, don't do it like that. That's not the work of a constitution. That's where the statesmanship of the leaders of the country becomes important, and that is where constitutional morality takes over. So our constitution has certain gaps, it has certain silences. How do we fill them? What is the mechanism for filling those gaps or those silences? The first thing I think that we have to realize, and that the leaders of our country have to realize, and this is what I think Jayaprakash Narayanji and Justice Tarkunde and of course MC Chaka and several others sought to convey, and the Constitution says it, but we tend to forget what the Constitution says. The Constitution says that we, the people, are giving to ourselves this Constitution. So we are the ones who are giving the Constitution to ourselves. We are not giving it to our political leaders. We are not giving it to our leaders in society. We are giving it to ourselves. Why? Because we expect our leaders in politics, we expect our leaders in society, we expect our leaders in matters of economic policy to work for us on the basis of the constitution that we have given to ourselves, and you, the political leaders or the social leaders or the economic leaders, are not different from the people. You are also citizens of India. So please appreciate that the constitution is the final word, and you, leaders or non-leaders, people of India, and you are people of India, have to work in accordance with the spirit of the Constitution, in accordance with the morality that the Constitution has laid down. And unless you do that, even the good Constitution that was debated for 2 years and which contains just about every aspect of governance will fail. And we had that problem in June 1975 when emergency was declared. The purpose of an emergency provision in the Constitution was not to impose the kind of emergency that we had in 1975, but it was to deal with situations which became, for one reason or another, completely unmanageable. And things were going towards the authoritarianism or the dictatorship, and that is what provoked Jayaprakash Narayanji, that is what provoked Justice V.N. Dakunde to speak out in public forum and to have a non-political body called the Citizens for Democracy. This was in April 1974, and we know that a year later, in June 1975, emergency was declared. So, while it is possible to say that yes, the emergency was declared in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, but did constitutional morality require emergency to be declared in a situation that was prevailing at that time? And what was the situation prevailing at that time? A case had been filed in Allahabad High Court to challenge the election of Mrs. Indira Gandhi. And the Allahabad High Court set aside the election. An appeal was filed in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, yes, you can attend Parliament, but you cannot vote. And we will decide whether you had indulged in corrupt practices during the campaign, during the elections. Now, this is a normal incidence of life in politics. Elections are held every year. Hundreds of candidates stand for elections. Some of them indulge in corrupt practices, some don't. But can you say that because some person, and in this case one person, has indulged in corrupt practices, therefore a national emergency has to be declared? That is not what the Constitution says, and that is not what the Constitution intended. You will recall in 1933, Hitler did the same thing. He took power, he controlled power through constitutional means. And we saw what happened after that. We were fortunate, our country was fortunate, that we had elections after about 19 months or so of the emergency. And the people said, well, this is not what our constitution has to say. And therefore, Mrs. Indira Gandhi and her party lost the elections and were thrown out of power. Jayaprakash Narayan ji was instrumental in getting all the political parties together, although he was above politics, and forming the Janata Party. The Janata Party, I believe they had their discussions right here. The formation took place right here in this building. They came to power, and a couple of years later, they also fell out of favor with the people, and Mrs. Indira Gandhi came back to power. And in the meantime, Jayaprakash Narayan ji passed away, and his legacy was carried forward by Justice Thakurde, Mr. Justice Chakla, and others. Now, having said this, what is the constitutional morality, or what are the problems of constitutional morality that we are facing today? I think the one that is the most immediate problem of constitutional morality that we are facing today is the attitude of the governors of states. I think that is something which is really alarming, because these governors of states are supposed to be above politics. They are supposed to be something like an elder statesman, somebody who is a bridge between the state and the center, so that there is no conflicts of federalism and so on. But what we have been noticing in the recent past, over the last couple of years, and not only in the case of one person or two persons, but in the case of 4 or 5 persons, that these governors are acting as agents of the government of India. That is not what the Constitution postulated, and that is not what constitutional morality requires. Sorry, just excuse me. Sorry. Now, what is it that the governors have been doing? And this is particularly in states where the political party in power at the center is not the party in power in the states. What the governors have been doing is they have been sitting over bills that have been enacted by the state legislatures. The state legislatures consist of representatives of the people. They are entitled to, under the Constitution, pass laws, which they have done. The laws have been sent, the bills have been sent after passage by the state legislature to the governor. And what does the governor do? There are instances where the governor has not taken a decision on the bills for 2 years, 3 years. Under the Constitution of India, the governor has the power to withhold assent to the bill, which does not mean that you withhold assent forever. You have to withhold assent and inform the legislature that I am withholding assent, and this is the reason why I am withholding assent, so that the legislature can go back to the drawing board, have a look at the legislation, and see whether the changes that have been suggested by the governor or the views of the governor are taken into account, and if necessary, the bill can be modified or a fresh bill can be passed after modification, or even dropped if it is necessary. The governor has the authority under the Constitution to give assent to the bill, to make it into an act. Or if the governor feels that it is perhaps in conflict with some law made by Parliament, then the bill can be referred to the President of India. These are the only three options that are available to the governor. But what the governor has been doing, some governors have been doing, is they have not been taking a decision on the bills, with the result that laws which are necessary for the governance of the state are not being enacted. How is the state going to run if this happens to every law? Supposing the governor maliciously says, whatever law you pass during a 5-year term as the state legislature, whatever law you pass, I will not give my assent to it, and I will just sit over it. Constitution doesn't say that I have to return it to you. That's the interpretation given by some of these governors. So for 5 years, whatever law you pass, I will not agree to it. What happens? The rule of law will collapse, the state government will collapse, governance in the state will collapse. And we are not talking about one state, we are talking about 4 or 5 states and large states. So you have a situation where if 4 or 5 people who are governors of 4 or 5 states one day decide, oh, we are not going to agree to any law that you pass. You do whatever you like. For 5 years, we are not going to agree to any law that you pass. There will be chaos in 5 states. That will be the end of the Constitution as far as 5 states are concerned. This is where constitutional morality comes in. The constitutional morality does not say that you can stop governance and that you can stultify the governance of a state, make sure that nothing happens. The people suffer. If laws are not made, it is the people who suffer. Laws relating to the appointment of vice chancellors of universities have been stalled by governors. What is the result? You have universities without a vice chancellor. Can you imagine that? And universities without a vice chancellor, not for 1 or 2 days or 1 or 2 months, but for 1 or 2 years. What happens to the students? What happens to the future of the students? Where you are studying in a university which doesn't even have a vice chancellor. How is the university going to be run efficiently? These are problems which have been created, and these are problems which has led the Supreme Court of India last week to deliver a judgment saying that it is well settled law, and it's not something that the Supreme Court said only recently, it is well settled law, that where time limit has not been laid down, you have to exercise that power within a reasonable period of time. I apply for a license, I apply for a permit. The authority cannot say, I will not, look at your application. You come to me after 2 years, you come to me after 3 years. I will consider your application at that point of time. It can't be like that. It has to be done within a reasonable period of time. Now, reasonable period of time may vary from situation to situation. In some cases, it may be 10 days. In some cases, it may be 1 month. In some cases, it may be 50 days. but it has to be something reasonable. And this is what the Supreme Court has said, that we expect the governor to act within a reasonable period of time. Constitutional morality requires that. Now, you've had laws being stalled by the governor. We had another instance a couple of years ago when the state government recommended 12 persons for nomination to the Legislative Council. This was in Maharashtra. The governor did not do anything. He said, I'm not appointing 12 people to the Legislative Council. Sat over the file, sat over the recommendation, did not do anything. Is that permissible? If you look at the strict words of the Constitution doesn't say that you have to give a decision. But that doesn't mean the Constitution also does not say you don't have to give a decision. You can't just sit over it. And as luck would have it, the governor did not nominate those 12 persons to the Legislative Council. The government fell. A new government came in Maharashtra. Those 12 names were withdrawn and a fresh set of names was given. And this time, because the political party was something with which apparently the governor sympathized with, he made those nominations. So this is how the legislature can be manipulated by the governor, contrary to the principles of the Constitution, contrary to the constitutional morality which Dr. Ambedkar talked about. So you have this situation about governors acting in this manner. We've also had situations of the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly acting in this manner. Anti-defection petitions have been filed in Maharashtra. They were filed in Manipur. They have been filed, I think, in Telangana or Karnataka. In 3 or 4 states, or maybe 4 or 5 states, petitions have been filed under the Constitution 10th schedule, which is commonly known as the anti-defection law. And what has the Speaker done about it? The Speaker has said, I will not take a decision. And in some cases, in one case, I've been told that because of the elections, that anti-defection petition has become infructuous. Elections have taken place, so whether you had defected earlier is not relevant at all today. In Manipur, people went to the Supreme Court and said, why is the Speaker not taking a decision? The Supreme Court looked at the matter, and in terms of the constitutional morality which we profess, they said that, all right, we request the Speaker to take a decision within 3 months. We don't want to direct the Speaker as a matter of courtesy. We request him to take a decision within 3 months. The Speaker didn't take a decision within 3 months. The same thing happened in Maharashtra. They said, you take a decision within some 3 months or 4 months or something. He didn't take a decision. And then ultimately the matter had to go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, listen, we have no option now but to tell you, to direct you to take a decision. And when a direction of this nature is given, the political class is up in arms. Who are you to tell the governor to decide? Who are you to tell the Speaker to decide? But if the Speaker or the governor says that we are not going to decide, what is going to happen? What are the people going to do? What are the representatives of the people going to do? Are you supposed to keep quiet? And this criticism that has now been taking place in the recent past about the judgment of the Supreme Court, Supreme Court has overreached itself. It has gone beyond what is required by the Constitution. Yes, they have criticized the Supreme Court. Yes, they may have a point of view. I don't want to get into that debate. But tacitly what they are doing is they are supporting what the governor did. They are supporting what the speaker did. That is, sit on the files. Now, is that what our constitution says? That the governor can sit on the files? And there are people who will say, yes, very good. He's entitled to sit on the files. So what is wrong? The Supreme Court can't tell him to decide because the constitution says he can sit on the files. Where does the constitution say that? So this criticism of the judgment of the Supreme Court, in my respectful submission, is totally misdirected, because those people who are criticizing the judgment of the Supreme Court are condoning acts by the governor, acts by speakers of legislative assemblies who are acting contrary to constitutional morality. And in my view, this is totally wrong. If the constitution can be thrown into the dustbin, if constitutional morality can be thrown into the dustbin, it's a different story altogether. But as long as we have a constitution which we have given to ourselves and which we have to preserve and protect, we cannot accept anybody, whoever he is or whoever she is, whether it is the governor or whether it is the speaker, we cannot permit such people to function in a manner that is contrary to constitutional morality. There is a demand that the speaker of, that the governor of Tamil Nadu should resign. I don't think he should resign. The president should dismiss him. You are acting. The governor has acted in a manner that is contrary to constitutional morality. And the president should tell him that, sorry, we cannot tolerate this. The Constitution of India cannot tolerate it. The people of India cannot tolerate it. And therefore, I dismiss you. And you will no longer be the governor from tomorrow. This message of dismissal will send a message to the 3 or 4 other governors who are behaving in the same manner. And if they don't straighten up, I think the president should withdraw the pleasure and dismiss those 3 or 4 governors as well. It is time, the time has come, which was spoken about in April 1974 by Jai Prakash Narayanji, by Justice V.M. Thakurde, that we need to look at constitutional morality. We need to look at the functioning of the Constitution and decide what is it that we want to do. We have to realize that we have given the Constitution to ourselves. We have not given it to our leaders. We have not given it to our governors. We have not given it to our speakers. And if they have to represent us, they should represent us in accordance with the Constitution that we have given to ourselves. This is one aspect. Now, you have several other issues of constitutional morality. One is an absence of debates in Parliament. Now, I find it very strange, a person is told by the speaker that, all right, I will give you 15 minutes, you say whatever you want to say in 15 minutes. Or I will give you 10 minutes, you say whatever you want to say in 10 minutes. A law which is important for the country, and that is why it's in Parliament, a law which is important for the country is being debated. And the people's representatives are told that you can say whatever you want on behalf of the couple of lakhs of people that you represent, say whatever you want in 10 minutes. And we'll see what happens to the law. So 5, 10, 15 speakers are given 10 minutes each or 15 minutes each, you say whatever you want. How can somebody explain the fallacies in the law or the weaknesses in the law or even the strengths in the law? Debate must be wholesome, it must be as long as is necessary. They can't be filibustering where a person goes on speaking for 10 hours, 15 hours. It can't be like that. But again, there has to be a reasonable time. And 10 minutes for discussion of a law, I don't think is a reasonable time. 15 minutes is not a reasonable time. Give enough time. Let it be discussed. And what happens is, and we've had 3 instances in the recent past where, thanks to inadequate discussion and dialogue in Parliament, we've had a dharna given by farmers of Punjab just on the borders of Delhi for more than 1 year. 700 people are believed to have died in that dharna. What was the result? The result was those 3 laws against which they were protesting were withdrawn. Now, perhaps, if those 3 laws had been debated in full over a period of weeks, over a period of months, those blemishes in the law would probably not have been there. Or, the functioning of the law would have changed. But if you say that, no, you see, I'm going to pass a law, and you better agree. If you have an objection, say what you want to say in 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and sit down after that. You can't have a dialogue. And parliamentary democracy is all about dialogue. This is one instance. You've also had some other laws. Yes, the other one is about the law of sedition. The law of sedition was passed. It was challenged. It was going to be debated and discussed in the Supreme Court, where a petition had been filed to say the sedition law is unconstitutional. Perhaps sensing the mood of the Supreme Court and the manner in which the sedition law was being implemented, a statement was made that we are going to withdraw this law. We are reconsidering it, we are going to withdraw it. And sure enough, a new law came, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which has the same law, same words, with a marginal difference. Instead of Rajdroh, they now made it Deshdroh. What is Deshdroh again? People say security of the country, sovereignty of the country, everything. A cartoon becomes a matter of sovereignty of the country. A cartoon becomes a matter of integrity of the country. So whatever interpretation can be given, contrary to the fundamental rights that we have, free speech, expression, contrary to civil liberties, an interpretation is given which takes us back to the same situation. Now we have, at the present moment, objections to the Waqf Act. How long was it discussed in Parliament? What are the implications of the law? It's going to have a very serious implication as far as the country is concerned. But yes, maybe a couple of days of discussion or a couple of hours of discussion and say, yes, let's pass this law. What is the result? The government has told the Supreme Court that we are not going to implement some sections of the law. Why were these sections not discussed? Why is it that people did not say that, listen, this is a problem with this law, and discuss it? Let's find a solution if there is a solution, otherwise drop it. Again, an absence of dialogue and discussion. We've had the data protection law, which takes away virtually the Right to Information Act. You can't get information about a person. So last year, I was told that 17 bridges collapsed in Bihar. Bridges worth crores of rupees, constructed with the cost of crores of rupees. They collapsed. If you want to find out who was the contractor, under the RTI, they can tell you, sorry, we are not going to tell you the name of the contractor. Why? Because the new law says that he has a right to privacy. He may do hera-pheri. He may construct a bridge which is defective and which can collapse. But we are not going to tell you his name because of his right to privacy. Where do we citizens go in a situation like that? So corruption, which was mentioned by Justice Tarkunde, idealism and corruption is forgotten. So it's all right, if the bridges were constructed in a corrupt manner, that's perfectly okay. We as a government or as a state are not going to take action. You as the people, if you want to take action, we will prevent you from taking action by not telling you who the person is. Bulldozer justice or bulldozer injustice is again something that is talked about. An aspect of constitutional morality. We talk about roti, kapda and makan, and when the makan is built, what happens? The state says, ये गैर कानूनी है, हम इसे तोड़ देंगे, and they come and demolish it. Send a bulldozer. No notice. Why is it illegal? No reason given. Is time given to the people to vacate the house? No. Time is not given to the people to vacate the house. So everything that is in the house, whatever things the people have, whether it is bed, almirah, TV, everything is gone. Last week or maybe 10 days ago, we had a very sorry picture of a young girl whose house was being demolished. She went and took out her textbooks and ran away from the house with her textbooks. That was important for her. She wanted education. She's entitled to education. And a bulldozer comes and says, we're going to demolish all this. What if this girl had not been able to retrieve her textbooks? What would have happened? So these are issues. Now the Constitution cannot talk about, bulldozing people's houses. It can't. I mean, that's not the function of the Constitution. But if you look at it in the larger sense, if you do this now, there was a case of some person who was cheering the Pakistan team during the World Cup, and a bulldozer came and demolished his house. As luck would have it, it was not his house. It was a child who was doing it. It was the house of the landlord who was somebody else. And the landlord said, why is my house being demolished? Just because one child staying over there is cheering the Pakistan team. So this is where the rule of law suffers. And when the rule of law suffers, it is the Constitution of India that suffers. It is constitutional morality that suffers. So we have several instances. Electoral reforms. We have talked about electoral bonds. Jayaprakash ji had set up a committee under Justice Tarkunde to look at electoral reforms. They have given a good report. I have requested our President, Mr. Hirimat, if it is possible to have that copy made available. Justice Tarkunde suggested certain reforms. What do we have? One of the issues was expenses. Elections are very, very expensive. A lot of money is spent. Black money is spent. What is the solution that has been found? The solution that was found was electoral bonds. And with electoral bonds, corporate houses were arm twisted in a sense to give donations to political parties. And some corporate houses have given 300 crores, 400 crores, money that should actually be spent for the benefit of the shareholders has gone to a political party. And some political parties have earned thousands of crores 10,000, 12,000 crores, 16,000, 16,000 crores. And we are talking about electoral expenses, or elections being expenses. The Supreme Court said this is unconstitutional. But the result is that the money continues to remain with these political parties. Money which was unconstitutionally taken by them, unconstitutionally given by people, continues to remain with the political parties. What discussion can we have on electoral reforms? What changes can we bring about that were thought of by JP, that were thought of by Justice Thakur? Where is constitutional morality in all this? Does the Constitution permit political parties to get money in an unconstitutional manner, and not small amounts? It appears 16,000 crores with one political party, 4, 5, 600,000 with some other political parties. So these are issues I think that we need to talk about. CFD has been a trailblazer in this regard. JP talked about people's committees going to the grassroots level. Today, we have hundreds of NGOs doing excellent work at the grassroots level, but they are being suppressed for one reason or another, and somehow or the other, send somebody, income tax people behind them, send somebody else behind them, audit their accounts, do this, do that, so that they keep quiet. If they speak, cancel their license. JP had talked about people's committees. These NGOs are, in one sense, not committees of the people, but representatives of the people. Can we not revive these committees? Can we not look at the ideals, the vision of JP, which he formulated when the CFD was established as a registered society? Justice Tarkunde talked about Janta ki Sarkar. Now, that's an interesting concept. It is the people who are to rule the country. We, all of us, obviously cannot, rule the country, but we select people, and we have to select the right people. We can't be forgotten in the entire scheme of things. It is the people who are the most important. You can talk about the legislature, you can talk about the executive, you can talk about the judiciary, but the people are the ones who are the most important. If there are no people, you don't have a government, you don't have a legislature, you don't have parliament, you don't have anything. So this idea of Janta ki Sarkar, this idea of people's committees, Janta ki Sarkar, which Justice Tarkunde talked about quite frequently, people's committees, which JP talked about and had a vision. Unless we revive this, we are going to continue down a particular path. Mr. Hirimat talked about an undeclared emergency, which he says is perhaps worse than what it was during the emergency. In some ways, he may be right. I was surprised, frankly, I must say, I was surprised to go through some of the documents on the internet, and I found that during the emergency, the Citizens for Democracy held programs, an All India Civil Liberties Conference in Ahmedabad on 12th of October 1975, bang in the middle of the emergency. They were allowed to hold that program. The program, Justice Chagla criticized the emergency, and which is what Mr. Hiremat had referred to in his speech on 12th of October. Justice J.C. Shah, former Chief Justice of India, had presided over that conference. Public meetings were held in the Gandhi Peace Foundation right here during the emergency. They were allowed to be held. A Save the Constitution convention was held in Ahmedabad on 1st of January 1976, again in the middle of the emergency. A branch of the Citizens for Democracy was inaugurated in Madras on 10th of January 1976. The annual conference of the Citizens for Democracy was held in Bombay on 19th and 20th of June 1976. So, the Citizens for Democracy was active during the emergency. Can it not become active all over again when we are talking about something called an undeclared emergency? Something which people believe, right or wrong, I don't know, is perhaps as bad, if not worse, than the actual emergency that we had in 75 to 77. I think this is, if I may say so with respect, the opportune moment, the golden jubilee of the CFD, to let us revive the vision, the thoughts, the ideas of the founding members of the CFD, Jayaprakash Narayanji, who everybody, I don't think anybody in the country has no respect for him. Everybody has respect for Jayaprakash Narayanji for what he did. Justice V.M. Tarkunde, who was a spokesman and described as the father of civil liberties in India. I think it is time, the opportune moment right now, the golden jubilee of the CFD, where we can revitalize their thoughts, their ideas, people's committees, Janta Ki Sarkar, give civil liberties its rightful due under the Constitution, and also look at constitutional morality so that we do not stray from the ideals of Dr. Ambedkar, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and all those hundreds of people who are part of the Constituent Assembly. Thank you very much and Jai Hind.